And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. Today, April 29th, is the League of Women Voters People Power Day of Action, and that's a national day that the National League is putting on, where local and state leagues will host events around the country to increase public awareness and engagement around redistricting and make sure that the public's voice is heard. So we have a lot of redistricting issues going on in the state of Ohio, but tonight we are going to focus on the districting of Columbus City Council. And if you remember, 2 years ago, there was a charter amendment that was approved by voters where city council will grow from 7 to 9 members, one from each of a new set of districts. So to explain this process, we have Jeff Cabot, who is a longtime Metro Columbus League member. He's the former executive director of Kids Voting Central Ohio and one of the 5 appointed members of the Columbus Council Residential Redistricting Commission. It's a bit of a mouthful. We are also very pleased to welcome Naya Walters from Columbus City Council from the City of Columbus. She's an attorney with the city, and she's also here to help explain the changes coming to City Council. First, I want to just spend a minute talking about the Ohio Congressional and state legislative redistricting efforts. So I only have 2 slides, so don't worry, we're not going to spend too much time on this because I know most of you have probably been flooded by emails by Fair Districts and the Ohio League talking about this very important process. So the latest updates are that as of Monday, the Census Bureau delivered population counts that'll be used for apportionment. And Ohio will lose 1 congressional seat, so it'll be down to 15 representatives in Congress. And then our next date that we're looking at is September 30th. And by that date, hopefully a little earlier, the Census Bureau will send redistricting counts to the state. And that's the information that we really need to get started on drawing maps and making the official changes that will go into effect in 2022. So I want to talk just a little bit about what can you all do now with the congressional and the state redistricting efforts. As you know, the League of Women Voters is working on this effort with the Fair Districts Ohio Coalition, which includes Common Cause, the A. Philip Randolph Institute, and other voting rights groups. All this information about upcoming events you can find at their website, which is fairdistrictsohio.org. That has a lot of really great information. One of the things that Fair Districts is offering is a speakers bureau. So if you are part of a local organization that would like to have a speaker come and talk for 20 to 30 minutes about the redistricting process in Ohio, that is available, and we are trying to get a lot of organizations involved so we can spread the word about redistricting. We are also offering community mapping. That's a training that you can take so that you can start drawing your own redistricting maps, and you'll learn all the rules that you need to use to draw these maps on computer software. The plan is that the Fair Districts group will have a whole bunch of example maps made by local community members that we can show the Redistricting Commission as examples of what we'd like to see in the maps that will be drawn this fall. Another option is there are postcards you can request to send to members of the Ohio Redistricting Commission, and there are also instructions and a script for what to put on those postcards. So I'm going to post some links in the chat to where you can get this information. But I just wanted to give you all a very quick update on what was happening with that. And now I would like to turn it over to Jeff and Naya to talk more about what is happening in the city of Columbus.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Happy to be here. Happy to do this. So I've been interested in voting and districting and related matters for a long, long time. In fact, I have something that I may share with you all later if I can find it quickly enough after I turn the screen over to somebody else. But and I served as the treasurer of the Fair Congressional Districts for Ohio campaign a few years ago. That was doing the initiative petition to change the congressional districting. So I think absolutely that that gerrymandering and fair districts is one of the keystones of making our democracy work better. So I've been involved in that. And when I saw that the Columbus was soliciting people to join in their redistricting program, I decided to put my name in the hat for that as well, because of the importance that I place to apportionment and redistricting. So, and Naya, why don't you go ahead and start sharing your screen? Naya, so we have a 5-member commission. Our chairman is Malik Moore. Also on the commission are David Paul, Monica Sarazuelo, and Jay Avery Frost, in addition to me. And so there was and Councilman Emmanuel Remy is leading the effort from council side. And we had a town hall meeting just about a week ago that Naya and Emmanuel and others led. And so let's just walk through your PowerPoint, Naya, and then we'll answer questions and I'll add to it if anything needs to be added. But you go ahead, Naya, take it over.
I had to find my mute button. When I share my screen, I always have to look for it. You would think that after a year of Zooming that I would have this under control, but you know, what can I say? So I am getting ready to put it in presentation mode. So again, my name is Naya Walters. I serve as a council legislative analyst, and I'm also in-house counsel to council. I've been at council for a little over a year now, and I am the Council Residential Districting Commission project lead. So I've kind of been taking what we put into the charter amendment and making that into a real life actionable thing since I started at council. So for a brief overview, we're going to talk about the charter amendment. We're going to talk about the commission and membership and criteria, some of the anticipated challenges and some of the questions. This is my shortened version of the PowerPoint for those of you that had a chance to log in to the town hall last week. You got an extended version of this PowerPoint, but for time and just for brevity, I wanted to give you all the shorter version. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have that will give you some more in-depth look. So in 2018, Columbus voters approved issue 3 with 76% of the voters in favor. That allowed for 2 additional seats to be added to council for a total of 9. And all of the council members are now required to live in residential districts, meaning they must live inside the district which they represent. This will be more representative of our city population, and it will enlarge our council to make sure that there is broad representation for each area of the city. Part of that charter amendment also created the Council Residential Districting Commission, which Jeff serves on, as you all know. 2023 will be the first election cycle that the Columbus City Council will utilize the new districts candidate criteria. So that will start with the primary in 2023. For the council members that are currently running for 2021, they will serve a 2-year term. The entire council will run for a new seat, for those seats in 2023. So all 9 seats will be up. And so by 2024, all 9 new council members will be seated. And at that time, 5 will be starting with a 4-year term and 4 will be starting with a 2-year term for continuity. And so it's staggered terms. And so they will be chosen by lots. So at the first meeting of 2024, they will pull lots for who gets the 4-year terms and who gets the 2-year terms. Again, the council members, Chair Malik Moore, members, Jeff already went over that, so I will not rehash that again. Commission membership. So the charter requires the members of the commission to be appointed by March 1, 2021. This year, the council members were appointed by February 22nd, and this will happen every 10th year after this. So it will be decennial along with the census data. 4 of the 5 commissioners are appointed by a 2/3 vote of council, and the 5th and final member, which is the chair, is appointed by a joint appointment by the mayor and the council president. All the candidates, sorry, did I have a question coming through? Sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard noise, so I was like, maybe someone had a question. Interested candidates have to be qualified electors of the city, which means they have to be registered voters. And the commission members are required to reflect the robust diversity of the city. You're prohibited from serving on the commission if you are a city employee, an elected official, unless you're an election precinct member, a candidate for elected office, or a lobbyist that is registered with the city. Members of the commission do not receive compensation, so they are doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, I guess you could say. The commission has to submit 3 maps to council that follow the criteria that is set forth in the charter amendment. So to begin, the maps have to comply with all applicable local, state, and federal laws, including the Voting Rights Act, sections 2 and 5, which kind of focus on utilizing race as a factor. So race can be utilized as a consideration, but it cannot be a factor, a determining factor. Also, we kind of get into the gerrymandering and the cracking and packing and all those things. Districts have to be roughly the same size and population, with the largest district not outsizing the smallest district by population by more than 1%. So that's quite a tight margin, considering the exponential amount of growth that the city's been experiencing over the last decade. The districts have to be geographically continuous, meaning every district has to share a border with another district. They also should encourage geographic compactness, meaning that the district shouldn't attempt to connect disparate but denser population centers by using corridors of low density. So that really gets at the gerrymandering, cracking, and packing aspects. To the extent practicable, the boundaries have to maintain the geographic integrity of a neighborhood or community of interest. So think of your area commissions and civic associations. I know there's 21 area commissions, meaning that a lot of those areas will be kind of packed into more than one district, with multiple area commissions in one district as it currently stands. And the commission has to try and use district boundaries using the existing election precincts and geographically identifiable boundaries such as roads and waterways. And the districts may not be drawn for the overt purpose of favoring or disfavoring any political group. So that's the larger overall from the charter standpoint. The timeline. So again, the commission was seated in February, and they will host 9 community meetings in different areas of the city. And so those dates will be released here shortly. But our first meeting, for your knowledge, is May 5th, which is next Wednesday, from 5:30 to 7:30, and that meeting will serve a primarily educational purpose. Part of the things I think are important is making sure that not only the public, but the commissioners are as well are educated on the things that are related to voting rights. So think of your Voting Rights Act, the history of the city and their neighborhoods, urban planning and socioeconomic and zoning. And then the last one is about area commissions and civic associations and kind of the role they play, with area commissions being a kind of a pseudo governmental body, and the civic associations being more community-based. In an ideal world, the maps plan to be released on September 1st, 2021. The first iteration will be released, and it will be released to the public for 30 days. And then the feedback that they receive will be taken into consideration, and then the commissioners will produce a second set of maps, hypothetically released in November 2021, to the public again for 30 days. So it's worth noting that the initial set of maps will use the 2010 census data because we won't have it until September 30th. So the second set of maps will have the new data implemented. So there is some flexibility in terms of when we release and how many times we release. But the hard thing is that we have to release the maps to the public. And if we're going to release them, they have to be out for 30 days. So we have to keep that in mind when we're releasing them. And so there is flexibility in terms of how many times, but there will be a shorter turnaround time each time if we decide to release them more than twice. In December 2021, the maps have to be approved by the commission and council will vote on one of the 3 districting plans submitted. Council is prohibited from making any changes to the map except as necessary to ensure compliance with the charter. So upon the commission submitting the maps to council, the commission will be dissolved. And then the commission will be reformed again in 10 years when they do the census again. So this will happen every 10 years. Some of the challenges, like I already discussed, are the 2020 census data. With the data coming in later, it's going to be quite a tight turnaround. As I'm sure you all know, Columbus has grown a lot in the last 10 years. And so I imagine the population has grown as well to reflect that. And so with the largest and smallest district only being able to have that 1% difference, that's such a tight squeeze, there may have to be some more, there will have to be some changes, and there may have to be some changes that will be a little bit more drastic depending on how large the population has expanded. So looking forward to that. December 2021 map deadline, that's a challenge, just considering that we won't get the data from the census until so late. But everyone that is districting will be kind of combating this late release and trying to get it, because a lot of us are bound by charter or law to have our districts drawn by the end of the year. Again, this is the first time we have done this, so there will be, I'm sure there will be obviously things that we will see that this works really well, and there will be things that we see like, okay, this may need to be tweaked going forward. So I think, just kind of figuring this out and working together and acknowledging that this is the first time this happened, it's not the last time, and so if there are things that need to be changed, there's flexibility to do that going in the future. And then COVID-19, obviously, because we're not able to meet in person as often, so that also creates a significant challenge in terms of just trying to make sure that we're getting enough engagement from the public. It's also worth noting that we have some districting ambassadors, so we are engaging the other 10 finalists. So we had top 15 finalists out of the people that applied, and so we're engaging the other 10 finalists that were not selected as community liaisons. So there were people that are in the community, and we will utilize them to kind of be our branches in the community, encourage their networks in their neighborhoods to show up for the council residential district commission meetings and get engaged in this process. So that's how we'll be using. Think of the commission as the trunk of the tree, and think of the ambassadors as our branches reaching out into our neighborhoods. Are there any questions for me? I know that was kind of speedy. If you have things I need to read, I know that sometimes I talk with a kind of quick speech impediment. So if there are questions or need to repeat something, I'm happy to do so. But yeah, that's it.
So thank you, Naya. One of the things that we haven't really highlighted, but it's interesting and maybe unique. So although each one of the 9 council members will have to live in one of the 9 residential districts, all council members will be voted for by all members of the city. So it's a hybrid system. They will come from districts, but the vote will be citywide. The approximate population of Columbus is around 900,000, so it'll be about 100,000 people per district. Again, Columbus is a nonpartisan charter election, so in any districts in which only 2 people file, there will not be a primary election. But if more than 2 people file, there will be a primary election for the 2 candidates to run off in November for that district. And again, that primary will be a citywide vote. The requirements are that members have to live in the district for 1 year prior to the primary in which they are running and nominated. And if any seat becomes vacant, the replacement to be appointed by council would also have to live in the district and have to have lived there for a year. Questions? I know that was pretty fast, but it's really pretty straightforward.
If you all have questions, you can shout them out or put them in the chat. I know Harry has a question. Harry, you can go ahead.
Yes, actually, I have 2. Jeff, will the commission consider current council members' addresses when drawing district lines to see if you can keep
I can
the
only
current
speak
members in their own district?
Right. I can only speak for myself, but from my perspective, absolutely not. The incumbent district's place of residence will have no impact on how the districts get drawn from my perspective.
Okay, and
As a follow-up,
my second question is, okay, go ahead, Naya.
as a follow-up to that, no, they will not be considered. Where they live at now is where they live at. So it won't be considered at all by the commission at all. That is something that came up in our town halls, whether that would be considered, it has nothing, it will have no bearing. And we will encourage the commissioners to give no weight to that at all, so.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, parts of the Columbus are under intense development pressure. What happens when districts experiencing this intense population growth, resulting population growth, such as the Northwest Side, and the population numbers become out of balance with the other districts? How will the commission deal with this?
So the commission goes away after we complete our map drawing this year and we dissolve. And the districts are not changed for 10 years under the new census. So it is pretty much a standard apportionment practice that we understand that one man, one vote, one person, one vote is important in other districting situations, but population changes over time and it's not amended, updated for only 10 years.
So if every 10 years you look at the districts and their populations and redraw the lines as necessary?
To within 1%, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Pam, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so Jeff and Naya, I'm thinking about how it would work that these candidates would run. They'd be running citywide, right? So,
Correct.
okay, so anybody who lives in the city who's a registered voter, even if they don't reside in the same district as the candidate, gets the right to vote on that candidate.
That's correct. But one thing I did not mention and did not point out is, and this is maybe where you're going, in the candidates nominating petitions, and I believe the requirement is 250 signatures, Naya, is that what it is?
250 registered electors from your, or registered electors of the city from your district.
But they will
So-
have to be from the district that you reside in and are running from.
Yes.
So my question is, mathematically, it's possible that you could, if I understand this correctly, it's mathematically possible that you could win the election against your opponent, but not necessarily win your district.
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
So let's say we have Advocate Abby, Baker Bob, and Caterer Kathy. All three of them are running for, let's say, District 1.
I'd vote for the Baker, but go ahead.
So there's three of them that run for the district, and then two of them, let's say Advocate Abby and Baker Bob, rise to the top. So Caterer Kathy goes away, they go to the general election. So, but let's start from the beginning. All three of them live in District 1. They have to get 250 signatures from the registered electors in their city, in their district to run. That gets them to the nominating position to be in the primary. They get in the primary. Caterer Kathy goes away. Advocate Abby and Baker Bob are running
the general.
Yes. So let's say that Advocate Abby is really popular in District 1. I mean, they love her. Like if you look at the breakdown of the votes, Advocate Abby technically gets more votes within the district than Baker Bob does. However, Baker Bob is more popular citywide than Advocate Abby, because Advocate Abby has advocated for some things and made some enemies, and so she's not as popular citywide. So Baker Bob technically could win the district, even though he's not the most popular within the district based off of the numbers. So essentially, yes, if you are more popular citywide, it is possible that you can win a district over technically the person that was more popular inside the district. Does that make sense?
That was the answer I thought was correct. Yeah, I mean, that's the answer I expected.
Okay.
Do you anticipate any reverb from that? I mean, should that happen, that the less popular person within the district actually lose the election to represent that district? What do you think would happen then?
I mean, I think it's really incumbent on Advocate Abby to get out there and get herself popular within the city, because at the end of the day, you know, going into it that the election is a citywide election. So you know that your district, while your district is, you know, who you're going to represent, you're still representing the city at large. You know what I'm saying? So you're in your district, you represent the interests of your district, but you still have the ability to do things at large in the city. So like, if I win in District 1, I'm not prohibited in doing things in District 2 or 3 or different areas of the city just because I represent District 1. District 1 just happens to be my priority because that's the district that I represent directly. But you're able to still do things citywide. So you're able to collaborate, let's say with District 2, the councilman from there, and, you know, collaborate and do something together. You're not confined to your district in terms of what you're able to do. So I think what really important.
So what we have here is a compromise between various points of views about whether there should be wards and election from wards. And this is what the commission or the council election commission came up with and the voters approved. And so we're just going to live with it. And at some point,
see what happens.
See what happens. Yep.
Yeah, I think that what I was going to say was that it allows you to, like, if I live downtown, I know what's going on in downtown. I don't know what's going on the northwest side or the northeast side. So what it allows people to do is, like, if you live there, you're more aware of the issues that are happening in your area versus if you are just representing citywide, you may not know every court.
Yeah.
So I hope that provided information. My pleasure.
Leah, I saw your hand next.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Leia Bruno. I live over on the west side. I'm on the Highland West Civic Association, which is the Highland West neighborhood on the hilltop. I have a couple of questions. One, I want to acknowledge that I'm assuming, well, I know that this is a charter amendment. It's pretty well set in stone, and we're going to have to live with this for a little while. My first question is, how quickly could the city theoretically turn around a second charter amendment to fix some of these, in my opinion, pretty gaping holes? One being 250 seems very, very high. The original threshold was 1,000, which was also outrageously high, but if you divide that by 9, we should be a lot closer to 100 than 250. And I think that's going to be a barrier for a lot of people. My second question being, just as a follow-up to Pam, having the requirement to get signatures from your district, but then being completely at the mercy of the voters at large, really just undermines the whole purpose of this in my head. So what does the process look like to, turn around a second charter amendment? Is there like a set number of years that we have to wait before that can happen? And what does that process look like?
So from my perspective, that's a question for another time and another panel and another forum, probably the city council itself. But my expectation is you can change the charter anytime you want by initiative petition.
Did you want me to go ahead and answer?
If you have an additional answer, yeah, I realize it's probably it's a separate question and a separate issue. But I know that on the west side, we've had years and years and years without representation on the west side, and there is a pretty common worry that we'll get someone to run who lives over here, and then we'll never hear from them because they don't have to win our votes. And that's nothing we can do right now, but it's definitely on folks' minds.
I would say, I mean, you still have the power to hold your representative accountable. So if they're not doing anything in your district, you all have the power to vote them out and to campaign against them. So I think that at any point, the power is still of the people. So if you're not seeing that happening and you want to campaign citywide for people to not vote against because they're not representing your district, you have the power to do that. And as far as the charter amendment goes, I mean, this was one that was put on in place by council, but members of the community also have the same ability to request a charter amendment. And so that is really something that if you are interested in doing, that's something that you can do. Again, this is the first time that we are doing this, so I am positive that, you know, it's not a perfect process, but it is the process that voters voted to approve. And so we are here now, and we are doing the best that we can within the confines that we have.
And then if I may, someone wrote in the chat and I had the same question, so I'm going to ask it for her if you don't mind. What happens if no one opts to run in a district?
I don't foresee that happening, but I think that you can appoint, I think that I assume, and this is an assumption, but I can look into this. I assume that someone will be appointed to the vacancy the way that appointments happen any other time.
Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Lynn, did you have a question?
Unmute. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Lynn, how you doing?
I'm good. I do, and Jeff knows me from years gone by. I believe I have a fairly high political IQ and understand how these things work. I still cannot get the part of having a primary and why would we have a November election? I'm trying to understand if we have 9 seats and we have 13 candidates, we're going to have a primary. But what, or is it only to those districts?
Only for the district that has more than 2 candidates filed. So you won't have a primary in all the districts. In any district that there are only 2 candidates filed, there will not be a primary in that district. If there's one district that has 3 candidates filed, you will be a primary. And of course, it'll be a citywide primary, but you won't be voting in the other districts.
2 or more.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no, 3 or more.
3 or more.
Right.
Yeah,
If only 2 file,
less.
they automatically go forward to the November ballot.
Okay.
If 3 file, then you have to have a primary to sort them out. Again, that's another question for another time. I was on a video the other day with ranked choice voting, which I am an advocate of as well. But again, nobody's asked for my opinion on how to set up this election. They just asked me to help draw the districts that they're going to vote in. By the way, Lynn, I do mediation work for the Franklin County Board of Revision, and your old house came up on my docket last week. And I said, I know that house. And he said, yes, I don't give as many parties as Lynn does.
I was actually thinking about buying it back. I saw it was on the market. Thanks for that. I just, if somebody is running I'm in District 1 and there's only one person that applies, they're basically running unopposed, or they got to go back out and run citywide?
They're running unopposed. They're still going to run citywide, but they're unopposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
They can get 1 vote and they're in.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, when you're unopposed, that's kind of how that works. But if they're at most, there will be, in the general election, at most there will be 18 people, because there's 9 seats and you get 2 people per thing. So 1 times 2. So 9 times 2 in this case. However, I want to point out that you could have like 30 people running from one district. So like, let's say District 1 is really popular and a lot of people are interested. You could have 3 people running that district, which would make for a very intense primary. You could also have 3 people running in District 2. Again, you're still only going to vote for your top person. You're only going to vote for 1 person. And that'll be kind of delineated on your ballot, you know, District 1, here are your potentials, District 2, and so on and so forth.
Sally had a question in the chat, which was, has this model been used in other cities?
Sorry, Sally, I cannot answer that question because I was not here when it was decided on. So I'm not 100% certain. I think there probably are other cities who use hybrid, but I would not be able to name one to you off the top of my head.
Could I just then ask how that came about? Is there like evidence-based practice that it was good that in your district that people all over the city could vote for the candidates in that one district? That I'm in District 2, but I vote for those in District 1 as well.
So
Again,
Sally,
I was not
there has
here
been
when that was decided, so I'm not
There's
sure.
been an effort for some time in Columbus to change elections from at-large citywide elections to have some system of wards. And with the decrease of the number of Republicans in the city, the Republican Party has kind of signed on to that. So the Republican Party was supporting that effort as well. But so there's been a group of people that wanted ward elections where it's maybe a better chance for the little guy to get elected. And there was another point of view that says Columbus has been a thriving city and done very well with at-large elections and hasn't wound up with the log rolling interward problems that maybe have manifested themselves in other cities. So several years ago, council impaneled a charter revision commission to look at specifically the issue of council size and council elections. And this is the result that they came forth with and that council then put on the ballot as a charter amendment. So we're probably plowing some new ground here and may be a model for other people or a model for other people as to how not to do it. We shall see.
So would you say, then I'll shut up, but would you say then for look, I'm sure you've looked at cities across the country. Would you say that by us increasing the number of council members, or are we more in line with larger cities across the country then?
I think so, but they're all over the map. There are all kinds of models, all kinds of approaches. Again, as I was telling you the other day, the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul elect their council members by ranked choice voting from multiple member districts, which is something that I think is worth a look. So whenever somebody decides to reopen up the charter and relook again at how to elect city council members, I'll be there saying, well, let's try ranked choice voting.
I had a question about how you're going to draw the maps. When we are doing community mapping for the redistricting efforts, we're using something called District R, which is a program that Tufts University came up with. I mean, is that similar to what you're going to be using to draw the districts?
No.
And
not exactly. I played with Districter because I wanted to see what it looks like. But we are using a system by Esri. They're a GIS company, so it's called Esri GIS Redistricting, and so we'll be utilizing that as a way to draw the maps.
Okay.
So it's I don't want to say it's far off from Districter, but it's a little bit more advanced in Districter. Like you're able to add different layers, whether it's like racial makeup, you're able to add like business corridors, you're able to add districting maps, so you're able to add quite a few different things that you all can kind of add in as layers to help us look at certain things as we're considering the boundaries. Sorry, I got a little distracted by the picture.
I'm sorry. I was trying to share something to my screen and it's not what I was expecting to show up. So let me try one more time. There. So I've been at this for a long time. This is a picture from 1950 in Coshocton, Ohio, of my father and my younger brother and I marching to vote.
Cute.
I'm sorry about that. I'll get it out. I'll get it out of here real quickly.
very cute picture.
Nice.
Are there specific?
I guess it's hard to follow that, isn't it?
It is hard to follow. I don't have my own cue.
So, Elizabeth, I'll just say thank you, Jeff, for your many, many years of public service on behalf of voting rights.
Definitely. If I could add just a little bit of comment on this. I served on Columbus City Council for 2 years back in the late 70s. So this is ancient history, but there have been efforts to try to get to a council by districts concept since even before then. And it's gone all across the board. Columbus is blessed with a stable city government. And there are hundreds of cities that aren't nearly as far along as Columbus is, largely because we have stable, we have a history of stable and fairly responsible city leadership. Working together with the private sector, working together with neighborhoods. Is it perfect? No, but it's worked well so far. However, the city is so big, it's legitimate that we need more city council members than we have now. There's just no one city council member is able to connect with everybody in the city. So this makes sense from that regard. But it is a compromise in the sense that it's designed to avoid balkanization. Just like Jeff and Naya mentioned, other cities that are elect their city councils strictly by districts have enormous problems with keeping things rational. So you get into this business when you're divided up completely, you get into this business of things like really ridiculous decision-making, like I'll vote for your park if you vote for my fire station, okay? So you can easily deteriorate into an irrational way of making decisions. This is an interesting compromise, and let's see what happens. It may work out great.
There's another question in the chat too, which is, how will this charter address the announcement of retirement of council members after the deadline for primary or to run file? I heard you briefly mention what will happen when there's a vacancy, but could you elaborate?
So,
do you want me to
so
take this one?
council members will file petitions like they do today. And the petitions that they file will have a committee of 5 that would be able to name a replacement to that council member on the ballot should they withdraw or die before the election or anything like that. So it'll be the same process. But the one difference is there will not be petitions with slates of candidates. Each candidate will have to have their own petition because they'll only be allowed to get signatures from people who live in their residential district, but they will have a committee of 5 to appoint replacements should they withdraw.
I'll just add to that it doesn't address council members. It doesn't address and it has nothing to do, it's completely separate from the process of people being appointed to replace if people drop out for whatever reason or retire. It doesn't address that at all. Similar to what Jeff said, but however, if someone is running in a district and they decide to move, and let's say I was living in District 2, but I want to move to District 1 for whatever reason, I automatically resign my seat as a vacancy as a result of me moving. That's important to also know, is that you have to remain in your district at all times, and failure to do so will result in a vacancy and your replacement.
I was also wondering, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but was part of this charter amendment an impetus because so many council members were just living in one particular neighborhood in the past? I don't know if you know that or.
I don't believe so. I think it was a response to the effort to have council elected by wards.
Okay.
And this was a compromise to expand council, give somewhat regional representation on council, but still maintain, as Pam pointed out, the citywide perspective of each council member.
It's also worth pointing out that there was a community-run effort to put something on the ballot. It wasn't successful, but that was also there have been those types of things that are done that were also done, and then council also did their own.
Were there any other questions for Naya or Jeff?
Thank you, Elizabeth and the League, for this opportunity. And we'll see you at some of the public hearings around the city, whether they be in person or virtual.
Yes, we will try and get that information out to our members about when those are happening. And we would be happy to be involved in any kind of public PR campaign you all have, or, we know we'll be getting a lot of questions in the future when we do our voter outreach events about how these new city council districts work. And so the more that we can be informed, the more that we can, help spread the word. So thank you. That was really helpful to me. I now have a much better understanding of what the districts mean and how people will be elected and things like that.
Feel free to email me if you have additional questions. I can be reached at crdc@columbus.gov. That is an email for all things districting. I am the maintainer of that email box. So, but again, that is crdc@columbus.gov. And I'll be happy to respond to any questions that I can help with. So that is how I can be reached after this.
Okay, thank you, Naya.
Sure.
Cheryl or Sally, did you have any other league-related announcements you wanted to make quickly at the end?
I just want to say thank you again to Jeff and Naya and Elizabeth too for bringing us this really informative session, a great civic cocktail and great participation from the group too.
I would-
I forgot my cocktail.
I would agree as well. We thank you so much. And really, we thank all the league members who have joined us tonight. And hopefully you'll follow up with any questions or concerns that you have. Because I think that Elizabeth is right. As we go out and try and register voters, there's going to be a lot of questions about how this operates. So thank you so much.
Okay, well, we will end the session. Hope you all have a wonderful night and a good weekend. And we will see you very soon at the next league event.
Good to see all my old friends. Bye-bye.
Oh,
Bye.
wait. Elizabeth, we should encourage everyone to join us on May 5th.
Oh, yes, I almost forgot about that. Actually, I know you said May 5th is the day of your first redistricting city council session, but we also actually at the league have our annual benefit, which is Democracy in Action. We're honoring inclusive housing advocate Amy Klaben. That is going to be at 7 o'clock. It's a virtual event on May 5th. So I will be sending out a follow-up email to everybody who registered here, and I will include a link to that in case you want to join us for that event. It should be, we worked really hard on it. It's our first big virtual benefit, and I think it's going to be great. So
I did have one question real quick. Will we have access to Naya's slides?
I did not send them.
Elizabeth recorded this session, right?
yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it should be on the recording, but yeah, because I did not include those. Just to FYI, our meeting starts at 5:30, so if you guys want to come to that first and then go to the other event at 7, please feel free to join us.
Okay, I will include a link to that meeting as well, and then also Naya's email so that people can follow up.
Thank you, ladies. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.